With us in the studio today is Micha Eshet, who served as a paratrooper in the IDF during the Six-Day War. Micha doesn't sit around telling war stories, but he's deeply engaged in yet another battle that is happening right here in the same city that he helped liberate in 1967, Jerusalem. Micha, thank you so much for coming in today. So what are you fighting for today?
Today, basically, we are fighting for the implementation of the Kotel bill, or basically also the advisory for praying arrangements by the committee, special committee that the Prime Minister nominated, and that later was frozen in July of 1917. And our purpose is that the government will implement and try and make the Kotel a real national, historical, respectful place for all people of all kind of beliefs, Jews, of course, women and men in equality, and for each and every community to pray its own way.
Very interesting. Now, I find it interesting that you yourself are not religious, along with most...
I'm not.
Yes, right, along with most of your comrades who, and you clearly aren't women, right? Yet you're fighting with the same passion as you did when you liberated the Holy City. What is motivating you about this specific issue?
I think there are two things. First time I encountered the situation of the Kotel was about 26 years ago, when my mid-son was 13 years old, and for the bar mitzvah, we went to the Kotel as a traditional, for the traditional prayer of bar mitzvah. His mother, my wife, and his grandmother are Orthodox Jews, both from America. My wife made Aliyah to Israel, and we were both very surprised, all of us very surprised, that we couldn't do it together. We men were enabled to go into the praying court, and the women had to stand on chairs beyond the fences. And that was kind of a hit in my face.
Right, I mean, after having liberated the city and then to kind of have...
I'm not quite sure whether it's connected, but obviously, as one who was among the liberators of Jerusalem, we have a special feeling for the Kotel.
So what do you think needs to happen?
What needs to happen is that for the government to implement its decision.
Okay.
Once they do it, it was a compromise after many, many years of negotiation, which was led by the government, by the Secretary of the Government, by Nathan Sharansky, by, I don't remember the other name, and they came to a compromise agreement with all the Jews, both from Israel and the Reform and Conservative from America. They presented this proposition to the government accepted it, and then, again, in July, they've frozen it.
So, Professor, I'd like to hear your response to what our guest here is saying. I mean, we've discussed this issue in the past on the show, but it's been quite some time, and it doesn't feel like anything's changing.
Look, when the wall was liberated, there were so many possibilities. One, it could have been made a national monument and not a place of prayer, a place where people from all over the world could come, men and women alike. That was not what happened. A rabbi was appointed the Kotel, an Orthodox rabbi, and the entire functioning Kotel was turned into an Orthodox synagogue. That is now the reality on the ground, and so I think we can't go back to what could have happened in 1967. That's why I think the compromise is appropriate. Keep the central part of the Kotel the way it is as an Orthodox synagogue. Look, we all have this problem. I myself go and daven in an Orthodox synagogue in New York, Park East. My wife prefers to sit with me, so she has me go to a conservative synagogue with her where we can sit together. In America, of course, we have choices. We're not obligated by any government decisions. I do think there ought to be a place at the Kotel for mixed prayer where men and women can pray together. There ought to be a section for no prayer at all, where people can just go and recognize the national importance of the Kotel as part of the retaining wall of the Second Temple. So compromise is essential, and compromise is essential domestically as well as internationally. And I completely support the compromise. I was very gratified when Prime Minister Netanyahu spoke to the GA in the United States by video and assured us, essentially, that this issue would be resolved in a way that satisfies the non-Orthodox community in the United States. We have to remember that both in Israel and the United States, non-Orthodox Jews are a very, very significant majority of the Jewish population. Also, American Jews have to maintain a stake in Israel, and you just can't offend 4/5 of the American Jewish population by regarding them as second-class citizens, not only when it comes to the kotel, but when it comes to conversion, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to all kinds of other issues that transcend Israel and go to the heart of the Jewish community, what it means to be a Jew.
All right. Do you have a response to that, Micha?
Yes, I would like to comment in addition to what Professor Dershowitz said, that if I can make the differentiation between a house and a home, I do believe that the state of Israel is also the Jewish home for all of the Jewish nation all over the world. And like he said, we also have to make the kotel as part of the national symbol of Israel and the Jewish tradition, not necessarily religious, but tradition, as a comfortable place for all people, for all the Jews. And hopefully the government will move to that direction.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Micha. We're turning to our next video.